everyone. Welcome back to Innovation Unleashed. We got another great episode for you. Today I'm joined by my colleague Leah Beitler, who you may remember from her interview with the Maze Group.
Yes.
It's great to have you here back on set.
Great to be back.
And today we've got a special guest, Jason Edwards. He is the head of marketing and e-commerce at the Hat Club. Listrak customer and personally a favorite of mine because they have some of the coolest hats that you ever would see. Like I'm a Philadelphia Phillies fan, as is Leah, and
Big time.
The most creative designs that I've ever seen. Different colors, things that you don't see normally. Jason, we do have a lot of our clients in the product showcase behind us here, so I think we might need to get a few hats back here to show off on the podcast. But welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm very glad to be here.
Well, let's get right into it then. I was, doing my research as I do, and it looks like that you've got quite a bit of experience in the marketing and e-com realm throughout your years. I just want to get a little bit more about your background and tell me what experiences and companies that you worked for were really kind of formative and helped you kind of evolve to the position that you're at today.
Yeah, well, I do have a long career, unfortunately, that puts me into an age group that I'd rather not be in. But
don't worry about it. I've got 25 years under my belt, so I'm right there with you.
Yeah. And so, early in my career, I think some of the formative, career paths or elements that I had were early on. When I was probably 27 or 28, I had a chance to help a startup called vitamins.com. And so we were one of the first. GNC and Mother Nature were two that were before us in the .com world, but we were pretty early to the game. And, that really kind of made my career as far as the trajectory in e-com and digital marketing, because I enjoyed that so much. And it felt like the Wild West back in those days, and trying to figure out what exactly this Google thing is and how we're going to advertise there. And so that was an experience that I thought was really instrumental early on in my career. And then for a good portion of my career after that, I kind of bounced back and forth between the technical side, the development of websites and web properties, to the marketing side, digital activations and acquisition retention marketing. And so that is like something that I felt really helped me in my career, was understanding how to communicate with developers to get the visual design, the flows and the things like that we really wanted to accomplish with our front end design. So that was a big part of my early career. And then more recently, I moved into, over the last 10 years or so, I really kind of moved into consulting and trying to understand the behavioral design elements when you're really looking at what you're trying to get your customer to accomplish on your website, what you want them to take away from the experience, and really starting to build out the flow and the experience that you want to have from a behavioral perspective. What's the end result of what you want to do from a behavioral aspect? And then that's kind of driven me to where I am now at Hat Club. And very excited to be able to be doing both the technical side and the marketing side for our business.
And Jason, you mentioned a little bit being or dabbling in the consulting business. I have a little bit of experience being on the partnership side, but any takeaways from that consulting business, or a preference from being on the brand side?
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like it's really healthy to experience both sides to get the perspective that each side has. I think on the consulting side, the main thing that I really kind of came away from was that you really got to be results oriented in your consulting approach. It's not ethereal. It's you got to really dig in, and you have to be results oriented. And that's something that has made me successful, particularly on the consulting side.
Makes a ton of sense. And I thought it was interesting that your kind of startup, the vitamins.com, fortunate on the domain name. That was practically everything back then, especially if you were getting into the SEO
Yeah.
side of things with Google. So that probably made it a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, it was a very interesting. A doctor had owned it and had his own like small supply of vitamins that he was giving out to his patients through that. And maybe he didn't fully understand the value of the domain at the time, but I think he did okay at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
Well, so getting more into the industry that we're in today, hats. You know, I think one of the differences with your brand, the Hat Club, it's a collector's. I think it's a site
Mhm.
for collectors. You don't go there just to get like the standard, baseball hat that you see the players wearing that night or that season's design. Um, does does that kind of customer base or fan base as it is have any similarities to previous companies that you've worked with?
Yeah, I think there are definitely similarities. The I think the biggest similarity is with some of there was a company that I worked with early on. They're not around anymore, but it was called Health Central. And one of the key things there was that they had a very strong existing customer base, and I think that marketing, understanding the retention value of your customers, and once you've acquired them, is something that we learned pretty early on in that experience to really nurture those customers who have shown an interest and have purchased with you before, and really trying to kind of optimize that experience. With Hat Club today, that's one of the big things we have. Customer acquisition is always an important element, but when you have a brand like ours, where we have a very active and very vocal community,
Mm-hmm.
we have to do everything we can to keep that community happy and to give them the products that they're looking for. And that's something that I think we do really well because of the long history. Hat Club's been around for 30 years, but that community feel is something that has really grown over the last 5 or 6 years for Hat Club, and is something that, as I look to my previous experiences, I really am relying a lot on our retention strategies around, really, and then building out the community. I've worked for a couple of startup social media companies in the past, which is like another similar type of thing where you're trying to, it's not just about eyeballs, it's not just about time spent on site, it's about what they take away, and do they communicate with their friends and their family about your business, about what you're providing, and are you creating that kind of a connection with your customers?
Yeah, I think, in terms of creating a connection, just to give people maybe a sense of the space, right? Like I think of, I watch a lot of sports, so we'll just say that. But
Mhm.
Fanatics is just like the 800-pound gorilla in the room, right? Like, and such a wild story. I think if anybody wants to do their own research on that brand, but I think you guys have really created and carved out that niche within what they would be considered not a competitor. Is that accurate? You don't really consider somebody like a Fanatics a competitor?
I think we would consider them a competitor to some extent. I think,
Okay.
we look at them, it's a small slice of competitiveness that we have. They are definitely
The
the
Venn
more
diagram
retail.
is very
Exactly.
light.
Yes, exactly. And when we look at Fanatics, one of the things, obviously they have part ownership, the NFL and the
Yeah.
MLB
Yeah.
and other leagues have an ownership stake there. So one of the things that they benefit from is that tight relationship from a licensing perspective and being able to bring product to market. We are fortunate that our manufacturing partners like New Era and 47 Brand and Mitchell and Ness also have really strong licenses. So that frees us up to be really focusing on kind of the creative, the fashion, the like you said, the colorways that
Hmm.
maybe you might equate to the sneaker market to some extent. And so that's where we really flourish. And I think we're fortunate that we connect with the community in that way. But Fanatics is definitely the 800-pound gorilla. Lids is also a really big competitor for us with 1,200 or so stores. But when we look at that, we look at hopefully raising the whole community, the hat community,
Mm-hmm.
with our styles. And there are definitely times where we see a hat club product being mimicked in those stores. Not very often do we see it the other way around.
Right. Yeah, I'm definitely
Compliment, if you will.
definitely trying to up my hat game, but and also my sneaker game, but definitely not there yet.
We'll
I
get
don't
him
think.
there. Don't
Yeah.
worry,
Yeah, we got to
Jason.
get a budget for that, right? We have to have
Yeah,
a
Yeah.
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 clothing budget.
We'll see if we can fit that in. You hit a little bit on loyalty and competitors as a whole. What are you doing specifically with loyalty that helps you differentiate from some of those competitors out there?
This is a really good question. We've actually been tackling this quite a bit, and we just launched our new loyalty program maybe 6 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. We have, in the evaluation of our competitors and the marketplace and where we have been historically, we know that creating loyalty is very important for businesses, but we don't want to create. We don't want to create a false loyalty where it's only, transaction driven, and it's points only based.
Sure.
We want to be able to create an environment where your customers are engaging with the brand in other ways. I don't think we're fully the way there, but we have matured our loyalty program to include achievements and some gamification badges and things
Nice.
like that. But also other things, with the following and birthday bonuses and kind of the standard stuff that you have. But when you look at products like ours, the number of transactions in a calendar year are usually not that high, right? Some of our collectors are fantastic and they're buying, from us every month.
Yeah.
But when you look at our average customer, they're buying, maybe 3 times a year. And so you have to really look at, does your reward and loyalty program match the purchase frequency, the revenue that's generated from those customers, and are you able to bring back to the customer value for being a part of that program? And that's really what we're trying to do is give more and more ways to interact and earn exclusives, pre-order access, early access to drops, things like that, that we think can create real value for our customers in the long term.
No, that's great. And I know you said you just recently launched this. Has it been
Mhm.
well received by your customer base? Do you have enough data on that yet? What have you seen?
Yeah, we're thrilled with the results. The participation rate is over 20%,
Wow.
meaning that points are being used on about 20% of our overall purchases right now. I think that is something that we're very excited about. The more that we see that utilization, the more we're seeing the long-term impact of that relationship with those customers. So we're very excited about that. And the things like average order value, units per transaction, those types of things, repurchase rate, all of those we're seeing significant increases in performance. So we're thrilled at the moment, but we're not going to rest on what we have, and we're going to continue to provide more of those value added benefits.
Oh, that's awesome. We'll have to catch up with you in a couple of weeks and see how it's
Yeah,
evolved.
Yeah, we'll do a follow up.
Yeah.
But that's an
yeah.
interesting metric. I never really thought about uh, percentage of orders where points are used as a measure that a brand would look at. But I'm kind of knee deep in analytics world right now from a product perspective. So that's an interesting metric that you're using that just to get a sense of the success of the program. Yeah, you could count. It's like app downloads versus daily active users, right? If
Mhm.
they're signing up, great, but if they're not actually participating in the program, it's not as effective,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, and you want to make sure that, there are a lot of rewards programs out there that actually aren't encouraging purchasing, repeat purchases and things like that. It's really there as a marketing tool only and not
Hmm.
as a customer benefit. And I think that's where, you can be really successful if you're really focused on what's the customer get out of it, and can you bring in things like micro transactions or micro benefits that you may not have a lot of monetary value, but are showing that you're caring about that customer and you appreciate their business.
I think a lot of retailers might relate to Hat Club in terms of having one major category, hats for you guys, obviously, but that's not all you guys offer. Storage or hat care. How do you incorporate other products into your go-to-market strategy?
We definitely, accessories are a really big part of our business. It really helps us when we look at our customer flows. So we take a look at the first purchase data, second purchase data, and things like that, with our customers. And accessories are by far the number one second purchase after a first customer purchase with us. So we have started to build out, flows for that and interactions, so that we are making sure that we are showcasing those accessories at the right time when the consumer is most likely to be interested in that purchase. We also use accessories often as a discount tool because we prefer not to discount much. When we can, when we're
Right.
able to avoid that. But one of the ways that we can really benefit from this is really doing that.
It's interesting that the hat care aspect of things. I was raised in an era where if you threw a hat in the washing machine, it would come out all floppy. And now we've technology has advanced to the point where I can put a hat in a washer, but that's probably not what you would suggest. Real quick,
No,
like
that's
give me like the ABCs of
best
hat care,
practice.
so that I'm not screwing up any hats that you might send to us.
So is never put your hat in a dishwasher or the washing machine ever.
Okay, well,
Right out of the gates. Okay, fair
Especially
not
with
enough.
doing
our
so great.
Yeah, especially with our hats, we when they're structured hats. A dad hat that's
Yeah.
unstructured,
Sure.
you can probably
Dad
get
hats.
away
I
with a
like
bit
how
more.
is that official category? Dad hat.
It's funny because I wear dad hats and I didn't know that was a category until I joined Hat Club. And I was like, why don't we sell these type of hats? Well, we do, but we call them dad hats.
I
And so,
can picture
yes.
it in my head.
That's
But
hilarious.
yeah, it's an official category on our site as
Feel
well.
free to throw those in the washing machine, but
But
not
yeah,
any of your fancy hats.
yeah, but outside of that, there are kind of, the two best ways to care for your hat is obviously to get a protectant on it early. As soon as you purchase it, get a protectant sealant so that it won't be stained as easily, and things like that. And then, the ongoing care, make sure you have a good hat brush, make sure you have the cleaning solution, and that will
Hat
really help you
brush.
keep it nice and ready for your fit.
Jason, we might have to do a second podcast just on hat care.
Yeah, hat brush.
I'd love
Which
it.
I hope hopefully our listeners will appreciate that. Hopefully there's somebody that's got hats that need some tender loving care.
We know a couple of list trackers who I'm sure
Yeah,
we could use
yeah,
those
definitely.
tips.
Shout out to Matt Dennis
Yeah.
on that one. He's
Yes.
definitely got some hat club hats.
Yeah, he
Um,
was. That was how he got in with us. Was
yeah, he's
Yeah.
probably
he
like, I'm
talked
not
to
only a salesman, I am a customer.
He's
So,
shaking
Yep.
his head at the
And
two of us trying to have that care conversation with you.
yeah, he knows all of that. So we've already talked a good bit about retention, and you mentioned how acquisition is also it's critical as part of your strategy. Let's talk about just some of the different acquisition strategies. Is it the paid search and social? Is it SEO? Is it getting into some of those communities, right? Like you were talking about like the community as a whole. So, are there like Reddit communities that you can do targeted ads and stuff? What's your acquisition game look like?
Yeah, well, we kind of go several of the things that you mentioned. So we are paid search and paid social is probably where, a little over half of our budget goes. But then outside of that, you kind of hit it on the head with the communities. So we are, with Reddit, Pinterest, some of these other communities. We also we do a lot of pop-ups events and really try to build community in the specific locale. So we've done pop-ups in Phoenix and Houston so far this year. We'll be doing one in Chicago, I think, later this year, and perhaps in the Bay Area. So when we do those really help us to get out into the community and have a more, kind of one-to-one relationship started with them. And we get incredible feedback there, but we also use that as a good acquisition tool for us. If they come to the event, they sign up, they get, entered into a raffle for free hats or things like that. We're getting high intent customers that we can then move into our conversion campaigns, and that's where we really leverage Listrak to do both SMS and email nurturing and get them, moving them through the life cycle.
Acquisition as it relates to one of our Listrak products, GXP, pop-ups and banners and things like that. And you mentioned how, you don't necessarily want to lead with the discount, or you don't want to create a discount shopper. Are you incorporating some of those types of things that you just described, like exclusive drops or access to certain things? Any of that play into your on-site kind of acquisition strategy once you get them to hackclub.com?
That's a really good question. With the GXP piece, we are very active on, quite a few pieces to that. So the cart abandonment and the welcome series and those types of campaigns we're doing extremely well on. We've been testing offers and things like that, and we're seeing pretty good response when we're doing our testing. But as far as some of the exclusivity elements, that's not something that we've done yet. But now I've got to write that down, because that's something I'll be talking with my
That
team
one's
about
free.
later this week.
I'll start charging consulting fees for the rest.
One very exciting question that I wanted to ask you, Jason. Hack Club, I'm sure, does a lot of very successful drops, but what has been some of the most successful drops that you've seen at Hack Club?
We've had several. We've kind of been a drop model for the last several years, but we certainly have what we would consider some home runs. The Sweethearts collection for Valentine's Day. We've been doing that. I think this is our third year that we've done that, and it's a very successful campaign, like a his and hers hats, which have done really well.
There we go. I love it.
Podcast.
Yeah. And then we also in the fourth quarter, we really have a couple of what we think are really fun. We have a horror pack, and so there'll be hats that are inspired by classic and modern horror movies. So color and design and style that'll go with those. And those no matter how many we order, we sell those out right away. That's
wow.
Really?
Probably one of the most popular ones. And then another one that I think is really interesting is we did one called the Ox Pack, and it was all around records and the record covers. And so, some of the favorite musicians and bands that our
cool.
community really loves, we take the color and styling from those records and really build out, I think are some of the coolest designs that we've had.
That's amazing. Obviously, you've probably had some learnings along the way in terms of some of these exclusive drops. Have you found any big findings in some of these drops, or is there something that that you're going to learn every single time after each drop?
Make more horror hats, I think,
maybe
is the
that's
one thing that we
key.
learned.
Yeah, the fickleness of our customer base is on display whenever we're doing a drop. We can always say that we have 100% confidence going into a drop or a new collection that is going to do well, but the community is really going to determine that for us, and that's something that I think we really take into account. Is that we look at wearability. A black hat, a brown hat, blue hats do well. If you put a white hat, if you're going to design a white hat, you have to make sure that it's extra special, because white hats are less wearable. So some of those kind of things we can take into account, like on a grander scale. But anytime a drop happens, there is a little bit of angst that we have right before that drop on whether it's going to perform well or not. But I certainly have seen some of the most incredible designs come across in my almost 2 years at Hack Club from our product team. They're amazing, and I would consider best in the industry from that perspective.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and maybe we don't want to go down this path, but any drop flops, were there any that you were like super excited about that you're like, I can't believe that didn't do better than I thought I did?
Yeah, well, one in particular, and I don't even want to say this, but when I was
we'll bleep out the
You can always-
designer's
yeah.
name.
Yeah.
Just leave the designer out of it.
when I was interviewing, we were going through the process, and I had come to Hat Club and I was touring the warehouse, and I saw a hat I thought was really interesting. It had flowers on it, all over the hat, and I
Hmm.
thought, wow, that's really interesting. And I kind of led with, that as a part of my pitch of like, I really enjoy this. I can get behind this kind of thing, and then when I started, they had already done the drop, and I learned that that was the worst drop we've had in a couple of years. And so
No.
I was like, all right, I need to completely reevaluate this and understand that I am in a learning phase
Yeah, he got the
in this
job.
particular market.
That's all that matters. Is get the
The
Yeah,
job.
dad hats.
dad hats. I'm glad I didn't use the dad hats though in the
Right,
interview.
right. So, Jason, you were talking about some of the trigger campaigns, automation, right, abandonment,
Mhm.
with the GXP side of things and welcome series, all the I think the um, standard playbook as it goes from an automation and trigger perspective. But as I understand it, there's some other interesting automation campaigns and triggers that you've been working on. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, well, we're always testing and trying to understand, what's going to work with our customer base. So we have implemented, I think, two main campaigns in the last few months that we're really excited about. One of them is that we are doing a kind of a nurture campaign around each league. So if you are buying MLB or NFL hats predominantly, we get you into, an automation there where we're sending out, the best hats, and we're trying to time that with specific events that go with that particular league. And I think we're pretty excited about where that's going to take us. The other one is for lost customers. So
Hmm.
we have, about 1,200,000 customers in our database, with, maybe 350,000, 400,000 active customers, or customers that we're actively marketing to,
Right.
which leaves quite a large group of customers who are not, have not purchased with us in over a year, and that we are looking to, earn back their business. And we have started to build out specific campaigns around that, automated campaigns around what was their last purchase when they did purchase, were they discount driven, were they drop driven, some of these other characteristics that we're able to cull from our database and use those to help build out those kind of long-term ongoing, reactivation campaigns. And we're seeing really strong results in the first, I think we're about 5 months in now. We're starting to see really strong results from that. And we are going to look to continue to expand that so that, even if a customer hasn't purchased in a while, there was a reason they purchased in the first place, right? And if we have
Yeah.
the ability to communicate with them, eventually we hope that we will get the right message at the right time in front of that lost customer.
Yeah, I think retention and win back has to be part of the program, and you never know, especially with the nature of your customer, right, and the nature of your
Mhm.
product. Um, who knows what drop or design is going to catch their eye? So
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it could, and like you said, what average customer might be 3 times a year, but some might be longer.
Perhaps a sports team dipped in performance for a couple of years and is making a comeback.
Not in
So,
Philly.
of course not.
Just kidding. It's
Yeah.
sad.
It's a wild ride to
That's a
be.
different podcast, though, Jason.
Yeah. Yeah. But I
But
do want to say though that what we have seen in performance just in the last year with Listrak's automation and GXP in particular has completely changed the dynamics of the customer revenue that we're getting with our existing and with our prospective customers. So we have seen, our email campaigns have shown some success in the past, but in the last year, we've more than doubled the revenue coming from our email and SMS campaigns, and we've almost tripled the revenue coming from our automations, and it's now representing, north of 15% of our monthly revenue is coming from these, automated long-term kind of campaigns.
Wow.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And for the record, I didn't script that out.
That was not scripted.
No, and I appreciate the kind words. That's really why we're all here. We're really invested in the success of our customers. So it's really great to see somebody who I was actually working with during the sales process come on and really realize that success. So I appreciate that. And I think, as we kind of wrap up here, more of this is probably one of those like no dumb questions kind of question.
We'll see.
But I was looking at the site and I was like, okay, you got baseball, you got collegiate, you got NFL, you have even hockey. I never really thought of hockey, baseball hats, but sure, why not? Basketball. But is baseball the number one sport? Like, it's got to be, right?
It is. Yeah, it most certainly is.
By
At least
far?
for our business. By far, it is.
Okay.
We want to encourage the NFL and NBA and the other leagues with our customer base. But one of the main advantages that Major League Baseball has is a very long and storied history of the franchises,
Yeah.
great historic logos, and we are big on side patches. And so Major League Baseball embraced that early on and have given us lots of options around the side patch for stadium, all-star game patches, World Series patches, and things like that, that really allow us to optimize the creativity within any colorway that we come up with.
Yeah, some of those side patches are just wild. Isn't there like a green eggs and ham variety colorway or something? I think I remember hearing about that in the
Yeah,
from my buddy Matt.
Yeah, that's Matt's favorite, and he lost his, so he's been begging for the last year for
Oh,
us
man.
to redo that. So, yeah, so we have, that's a big part of what we do, are the storytelling around our hats and collections. So we really do try to tie a story into the designs, or the designs are often inspired by different things. And I can't say exactly that it was inspired by green eggs and ham, but I can tell you that the color coordination would match with that kind of thought process.
Right. And it's interesting to me, just recently, this may be only news to people that live in the Philadelphia area, but it was the Philadelphia Fanatic's birthday.
Of course.
And yeah, everybody knows about
It's a
it.
national holiday.
But for the Fanatic's birthday, the Phillies actually had a special hat with the Fanatic on.
I can certainly tell you that team mascots are in our future.
Oh,
Nice. Well,
exciting.
Yeah, I know. Leo was excited to ask about the future, so I'll let her go to town there.
Yeah, one of my questions was, without spilling any secrets or sharing any information that you're not supposed to, anything that you're excited that's upcoming with Hat Club that you guys are dropping or looking into doing? Anything that you're particularly excited about?
We some of the things that we're most excited about is with our relationship with New Era. We actually have an opportunity to have exclusive access to different silhouettes. So the 5950, the 950 hat, the dad hat, the different styles. We are going to be testing a new 5-panel hat, which is just a slightly different design. And then we're working with New Era on a custom kind of Hat Club silhouette that was specifically, meant for our customers. So we're very, very excited about those two things in particular. And I mean, if there's a minute that you're not on TV and you're not hearing about Caitlin Clark and the
Yes.
WNBA, I think we're hopeful that we're going to have some product later in the year for that as well, which we're very excited about.
Oh, very cool.
That's awesome.
That'll be great. And last question I had for you, Jason. What particularly is your team working on currently? I know you just launched loyalty. You chatted a little bit about some additional trigger campaigns. Shopify checkout extensibility is quickly approaching August. Curious if you guys are working on anything specific at the moment.
Yeah, we actually just implemented the new extensible checkout in Shopify. So
Amazing.
we're already seeing a
Kudos.
really good lift in that. So we're excited about that. We recently launched, I guess maybe 8 months ago, 7, 8 months ago, we launched our app. And we have seen a tremendous amount of activity on our app. And so where we're moving forward this year is really to get the best experience we can for our customers on our app. That means adding video, bringing some social elements into it, making the rewards program more, interactive within the app, and then hopefully we'll have some new features as well that'll really drive that stickiness and continued consumer loyalty.
Oh, that's exciting. It's especially for a community like yours. An app is something that people, continuously go to, checking out what's new. Just makes that experience, I think, a little bit more personable for them too. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we should wrap it up. I definitely have more hat questions, but we'll save those for offline. I want to thank you, Jason. It's been a pleasure. So thank you for taking the time to speak with us about all things, marketing and e-com and everything else. So thanks again.
Yeah, this has been
Yes,
great,
thank you
Jason.
both.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful. Appreciate it.
Tune in next time for more Innovation Unleashed. We'll have another episode dropping soon.
We'll be back.
Yeah.